Is Ross Coulthart going to interview the lovely Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick? That's what it looks like. At least that's what Ross is angling for. What does it mean? What could come of it? What are the ramifications of all of this? And some other really interesting details about AARO and Sean Kirkpatrick. So let's go over it all. Get in here. This is Jack with Cosmic Road. I talk about UFOs and the paranormal. Please hit like, please subscribe, share on social media, and let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Okay, let's just go right to it. Here's Ross on the recent episode of Need to Know with Bryce Zabel.
I was shocked to hear that you're actually communicating with Sean Kirkpatrick.
Well, yes, I want to respect the privacy of my approach, because I'm desperately hoping that if we behave ourselves, we might get an interview with him. But I have put a bid in to Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, the boss of the All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, and he very kindly responded. I have to admit, when I spoke on our weaponized podcast appearance a week ago, and I said that it was crazy that AARO didn't have an email address or a phone number or even a website, somebody very, very helpful and probably a little bit naughty in defense sent me Dr. Kirkpatrick's direct email and phone number. And so I won't be revealing that out of respect to him and in the hope that we can somehow get him to appear on the show. But I did drop him an email, and he's responded. I asked him for an interview, and he said, I would very much appreciate having the correct media coverage and would love to support additional media interviews, such as the one he did with ABC. I'll have to refer you to Pentagon Public Relations as they handle all media engagements. My team has been working with them to try and engage more with the public on the work that AARO has been doing for the past year. Thanks very much for reaching out. Now, that's not a no.
No, that's not a no. That's actually very encouraging in terms of actually getting Sean Kirkpatrick to be interviewed by Ross. I think that'd be amazing. I mean, but part of me never wants to hear from Sean Kirkpatrick again. You can't trust a word out of his mouth. He hasn't said anything but lies since the get-go, since his inception of his directorship of AARO. The sole director of AARO so far. Yeah, he hasn't said a single honesty. The UAP report that came out to Congress, there are only 3 items in it. There have been no UFO collisions with human vehicles, which is false. There have been numerous of those. Go see Preston Dennett's excellent rundown of several of those. There have been no harm that has been done to humans by these things. And of course, that's not true either. Then the third thing was the numbers, which, as George Knapp has reported, were fudged by Sean Kirkpatrick so that there would be more explained cases or explained away cases than unexplained cases. So that was the 3 things that he lied about in the UAP task force, the report, which was all that was in that very underwhelming report. Then, of course, there was the interview or the briefing with Kirsten Gillibrand and Senator Ernst, where he says, UFOs? What UFOs? There's no UFOs. There's no stinking UFOs. And if I did find a UFO, I would direct that to NASA. Yeah, he actually said that. He says that AARO didn't have any reason to exist. There were no exotic vehicles. They weren't doing anything that defied the laws of physics. And furthermore, if he did encounter evidence of ETs, he would send that to the appropriate agency, which is not AARO, according to Sean Kirkpatrick. He would send that to NASA or some similar body. And so, so you can't trust anything Sean Kirkpatrick says. He's admitted that AARO has no reason to exist, and indeed it does not under its current leadership. So where does that leave us with an interview with Ross Coulthart? Well, it leaves me fascinated to see what Sean Kirkpatrick would say for himself after all of this, assuming that Ross would push him for some answers. But let's try to think about this in a slightly more generous way. Is it possible that Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick is not an agent of the UFO control group? Is that possible? Well, okay, let's go through it, right? Because there is a scenario where that could be possible. And let me explain what I mean by that. I'm thinking of J. Allen Hynek. And, as the director of Project Blue Book, I'm sure you're all familiar with that, which was, the government's, AARO back then, right? It was the government pretending like it was doing something about UFOs. The public was all concerned about this, so they created this body to look into UFOs. Then they appointed J. Allen Hynek to lead it because he was a UFO skeptic, and even though he was a very learned man and a smart guy, he was going to debunk all of this stuff, and that was the mandate that was laid out for him. And he did. He debunked one case after another, and until finally he got to the swamp gas case. And then he says, "You know what? I've had enough. That's not swamp gas. I said it was swamp gas, but I regret it." And then he became an avid UFO ufologist, a UFO researcher, and a very accomplished UFO researcher, and a supporter of transparency. So could that be the trajectory of Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick? Is that possible that they appointed him as a stooge, knowing that he would debunk this stuff? And that's what they wanted him to do. That was his mandate. And that was his predisposition as well as his mandate. But he wasn't actually under the employ directly of the UFO control group. Is that possible? Is it possible that the real, agent of the control group is Ronald Moultrie? Well, Ronald Moultrie is certainly in the bag for the control group. I think that's without question. And there's actually something really encouraging that Ross Coulthart goes over in this podcast. And that's the new information to me. He has gone over the new legislation much more thoroughly than I have. And of course, he has people that I'm sure tell him the pertinent parts of this. And the pertinent part that I'm talking about is that AARO will no longer be under Ronald Moultrie. Ronald Moultrie, of course, is the Undersecretary of Defense for Intelligence and Security. And, he is either Heckle or Jekyll, depending for the UAP hearing to Congress. And, back when it was the UAP task force and it was Bray and Moultrie presenting to Congress, and they were just continuing to cover up. And, it was a joke. And I called Bray and Moultrie Heckle and Jekyll. So depending whether it's Heckle or Jekyll, Moultrie is certainly a high agent of the control group in terms of the cover-up. And since AARO is working under Ronald Moultrie, it is possible that he is the architect of the cover-up in terms of AARO and not Sean Kirkpatrick. So, per this new legislation, AARO will be removed from the Undersecretary of Defense and Intelligence branch. And AARO will now be working under a new office. I forget the name of it exactly. If you remember, please let me know in the comments below. But the point is that it is going to be removed from the oversight of Ronald Moultrie. Will the new guy or girl, lady, be part of the control group, or are they intentionally moving it to a different office so that won't be the case? You see where I'm going with this, right? Is it possible that Sean Kirkpatrick is like J. Allen Hynek in that he has this mandate to perpetuate the cover-up, but if he is transferred over to somebody, working under somebody that is actually pro-transparency and disclosure, will the scales be removed from his eyes and he suddenly, without these constraints put on him, allow himself to look at the broader picture, the more accurate picture, and actually make AARO into what it should have been all along? Now, I've read Sean Kirkpatrick's biography to you guys before. I've gone over all of that. And if you go and rewatch that video, you'll see that Sean Kirkpatrick is an inside guy. He has been in on all of this technical science stuff in an inner level for a long time. So if there was somebody in a position to know about UFOs, it would be Sean Kirkpatrick. Gary Nolan, Brandon Fugel, they both say Sean Kirkpatrick knows everything about UFOs. He doesn't need to know anymore. That's what he himself has told them. And he actually worked under a fellow that admitted on camera that he was involved in reverse engineering and retrieving UFOs. So there's a lot of evidence to suggest that Sean Kirkpatrick is indeed an agent of the control group. So I'm not buying that he is not. But I'm just laying it out there. There is an avenue for him to actually be more like J. Allen Hynek than Ronald Moultrie. But check this out. In the letter that Sean Kirkpatrick wrote Ross Coulthart, there's some creepy stuff on the end of that letter.
This is really interesting. He's got a Latin quotation that appears at the bottom of his email. And it is universum mutatio est vita nostra est quod cogitationes nostra facere est.
Okay.
Now, I'm a schoolboy Latin, but I've also put this through a translator, and it comes back as the universe is changing, our life is what we make our thoughts. The universe is changing, our life is what we make our thoughts.
Well, I'll tell you something, my friend. I can translate that into English in fewer words. In fact, 3 letters. WTF.
Indeed, Bryce. Indeed. Yeah. WTF. Our thoughts make the universe. The universe is changing. What? That's at the end of Sean Kirkpatrick's letter. That's like his, boilerplate, whatever you call it. What do you guys think that means? What is the significance of this very interesting, kind of creepy, phrase at the end of this letter? So, that sounds control group-ish. That really does. But why, if you were part of the control group, would you put that at the end of your letter? Maybe that's just, Sean Kirkpatrick being weird. I don't know. Maybe he's into some of this consciousness stuff, manifesting reality. I'm very intrigued by all of that myself. I've studied it somewhat, and I've always been meaning to try manifestation. I think that is a real thing, and there have been people that have used that to great success. But I don't know if that's what he's talking about, or if he's talking about something entirely more creepy. So let me know what you guys think about all of this. And let me know what you guys think about this whole story in general. Should Ross Coulthart interview Sean Kirkpatrick, the lovely Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick? Is that just going to be like legitimizing Sean Kirkpatrick, giving him a platform from which to spew his lies? I mean, that seems likely, doesn't it? However, for argument's sake, if he is more like J. Allen Hynek, and he is at least a little bit open-minded, and he's a smart guy, and he's not a stooge of the control group, or at least not an active, aware stooge of the control group. And maybe actually engaging with Ross Coulthart, who is aware of the cover-up, could that actually open Sean's mind? Could we actually see in real time Sean Kirkpatrick evolve into later stages of J. Allen Hynek? I don't know, guys. It's an interesting story. I love it, and I am very encouraged, I will say, by the information that AARO will no longer be under Ronald Moultrie. Whether Sean Kirkpatrick continues as the director of AARO or not, I don't know. But I am actually very excited to see the possibilities that will happen when AARO is no longer under someone who is very obviously an agent of the control group. So let me know your thoughts about all this in the comments below. And if you've enjoyed this video, please give me a big thumbs up. Sure would appreciate it. Smash the like button, smash the subscribe button, and the bell to be notified of future videos. You don't want to miss a thing. Join me on social media. There's Facebook and Twitter links below. If you did want to support Cosmic Road in a bigger way, there's a PayPal link below, or you can simply become a channel member. Channel members are rock stars, and I love you guys. And there's plenty of other videos to check out on the channel, and I'll see you guys next time. This is Jack with Cosmic Road, signing off.